I always find it amazing how you get one type of car and it seems like you get like 10 in a row of the same type of car, or you get the same problem like a water pump or something, and then you get like 10 of them in a row, or something along those lines. You get a running problem, you get 10 of them in a row. Chevy Cobalt, another one. This is one of the ones I was working on yesterday, and I couldn't make a video on it because I was scattered in and out, doing a bunch of different stuff. Rear main seal's leaking. I already got the transmission out, but let me show you here real quick. So here, this is the back of the motor, and it's kind of hard to tell. This thing's pretty well maintained, so the oil is clean as a whistle in this thing. But there you see the fluid's leaking out. No, it's not leaking from the bolts. As you can see, they have blue Loctite on them from the factory, so they were nice and clean. But there you see the oil right around the seal. So we're going to take the seal out. I'm going to replace it, put a new one in. They have a special installer to do this. I don't have the special installer. And if you're not careful, you can ruin a new seal. So how am I going to get that out? I got to get it out without ruining the actual crankshaft or the engine there, the two case halves, because there's two case halves there. I got to make sure I don't ruin that. One is the lower part that holds the main bearings and stuff like that. The other is the upper part of the block. But I got to get it out without gouging or ruining any of that. So how do you do that? Well, I'm going to try the old screwdriver trick. What's that? I'm going to show you. Here, let me just show you this first. So if you look, this is a half right here. You can see the silicone, and it comes across. See, that's from the factory there. But that houses the crank and everything else. We took the oil pan off because originally I thought it was the oil pan leaking, and then I realized, hey, it's not the oil pan leaking. So, but anyway, yeah, we're gonna try to get in here to get this rear main seal out. And it's actually sticking out slightly on this side, and it's not on this side. I'm almost wondering if that was changed at one point in this car's life. I don't know. I don't think so. It's hard to tell. I could tell this thing had a clutch at some point. This is a stick shift. So, but let's get this old seal out. Oh, and the reason I was talking about the Loctite, if you look inside the hole there, you can see inside the motor. So you got to make sure, if you're ever doing something like this where you take the flywheel off, flex plate off, whatever it is, you got to make sure that if they are, if they're not blind holes like this, basically they go through to the inside of the crankcase, you got to make sure that you put some kind of a sealer on it, because if you look, you can actually see oil on the threads in there. Because if you don't put sealer or some type of a Loctite, something on there that'll help prevent the leak, if you don't do that, you're gonna get a leak. So anyway, let's do this. All right, so we're gonna take a screwdriver and we're gonna slip it in, try to at least, in between the seal and the crank there, and just try to walk it out. Now obviously the seal is destroyed already. For me, I'm surprised. It's actually very, what's the word? Not brittle, but kind of like dry. So another thing you could do too is, and I've done this before, depending on the seal, make sure you don't break the screwdriver either. And there it goes. One thing you could do too is you could drill a small hole. You got to be careful. Drill a small hole in the seal, put a screw in it, and this way you can grab it with a pair of dikes or something like that to pull it out. There we go. So that's out. Tell you what, that's a pretty dry seal. All right. So here, there it is. Okay. The spring is in there. First I thought the spring might have been missing, but it's a pretty dry seal. So now, I mean, this looks okay, but so now I'm just going to inspect the crank and then we're going to throw this new seal in there. So now usually what I do in a case like this is I will take a rag, go around it, make sure I get any debris that I might have gotten on there off, and then you're going to inspect all the way around. One thing you could do too is you could take a screwdriver or something. Let me just see, where did I put my screwdriver? It's right here. And you can gently run it along the edge, just to see if you feel anything. I swear I feel something. No, it's nothing there, because that was right where I was going. Now, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of Scotch-Brite pad, and I'm going to go in there, and I'm going to run it along the edge of that, just to clean it up slightly. So let's do that. So basically, just going to take a piece of Scotch-Brite and just run it along, just to make sure there's no debris buildup of anything. And then also, when you're in there, what you want to do is you really want to inspect the surface here, because I've seen it before where it's not going to be on this because it doesn't have a high enough mileage or anything like that. But the seal can actually cut grooves into the crankshaft. And some of you have known this from older vehicles where the front crank, where the damper goes in through the front seal. This was kind of an issue on older Fords, mostly Pontiac too, I believe, where the material that the harmonic balancer was made out of was actually a soft enough metal to where the seal actually cut into it. And they actually made a sleeve that you would put over top of the crankshaft. They actually had to like press it in place with a block wood and a hammer. But you press that in place and then put it in there. It was like a very fine, thin metal sleeve. Basically a repair kit. I'm pretty confident they don't make one for this. But anyway, you want to inspect that. You want to make sure the crank looks good, make sure there's no burrs or anything on it. So I did that. Now also, when we're putting the seal in, we're going to be putting some silicone on it, because you have two case halves here coming together. That's a leak point on both sides. So you want to make sure that you put some kind of a sealer on there. It'd be a different story if this was in a installation where you're just putting this thing together like a complete motor rebuild, because there's sealer that comes in through here. But now that sealer is basically, that seal's been broken onto the new seal, the new rear main seal. So you're going to put sealer on there. And that was the other thing. Let me just see. Okay, yeah, you can actually see it. So this is the original seal. You can see the mark there and right there from the silicone when this seal was initially installed. So let me get this thing ready. I'm just going to get a rag with some brake clean on it, wipe that all down, make sure it's nice and clean, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to put the seal in. So we got brake clean on a rag. As you see, it's saturated. And all I'm going to do is wipe around this whole shebang here. Get in the crevices. Just want to get off any debris that might be lasting on there from when I cleaned it. Alright, so now I'm going to go grab the seal and let's start putting that in place. Now here's a trick I showed you before. If you look, this thing has that spring on the inside that holds tension on here. Last thing I want is for that to pop out while I'm doing this. So, transmission assembly lube. And you basically pack it inside. And what that does is it creates an area for that spring to be maintained, or retained I should say. So I'm going to do this all the way around, because like I said, this way it keeps that seal, or that spring actually, from popping out. So let me get this done. Lots of time when installing a seal, you have to use whatever you can get your hands on. And like I have this, which is a piece of PVC pipe obviously, and I've used this for some kind of seals when I need to install. It doesn't fit this one though, it's too small. I also have this, which this works perfectly for Ford F350, 450, and 550 front axle seals. This thing works absolutely perfect. You put it on there and a block of wood on the other side. One side will fit the F350, the other side will fit 450s and 550s. Worked out absolutely perfect. So, but if sometimes you can't do that. So we're going to take this and we're going to try installing this by hand. And always make sure you put it in the right direction first. So we're going to try installing this by hand. And let me get some silicone because we're going to put some silicone in there. So now I put some gray silicone in there and I squished it in with a screwdriver. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk the seal in. The outside of the seal is clean and dry. The inside of the seal, I got some of that transmission assembly lube. So we're going to try walking the seal actually into place. Now, if this doesn't work, if I can't walk it into place, then I'm going to have to get a seal installer. And I'll probably have to run to like Home Depot or Lowe's, see what I can't pick up. Let me set you up in a tripod here and let me show you a little trick. All right, the angle of my dangle may be slightly off here. This tool, these are, I believe they call them seal tools. And what you do, because they don't, oops, try not to knock everything over here. They don't have a sharp edge on them. And what you can do is you get this and you use it to walk the edge of the seal up and into place. Don't use a screwdriver, because a screwdriver can create a whole bunch of problems because you can nick the seal. Sometimes you got to push it into place a little more and then walk the edge of the seal up into place. Like I said, hopefully this will work. There is a special tool to do this that includes a cone that goes around the crankshaft, and it allows the seal to walk up and over, but obviously we don't have that tool. So we are trying to do it this way. Let me get a small hammer to try to tap that in place. Hang on a second. I'm just going to back up slightly, just so you can maybe have a better vantage point. Actually, hold on a second. Let me try to set this up a little different. All right, let's see if this works for you better. You got to be gentle with it. Don't go bananas. And all I'm doing is I'm pushing the edge of the seal. Hopefully you could see that in a video. I'm pushing the edge of the seal up and over the crankshaft. Because this is not a job you really want to do twice if you can all avoid it. Because this is just a time-consuming job pulling the tranny out and everything else. Now this seal will bottom out. The aluminum that it's going into actually has a stop in it. Some seals do not, so you got to be mindful of the depth that you're putting that in. So let me go, I want to get a brass drift or a soft something to put up on here, maybe even a piece of plastic now, since I want to bottom that out. So hang on a minute. Alright, so this is a white nylon block. I don't recall where I got it from, but had it for a while. I learned about these things, these nylon blocks, from a body guy by the name of John Rickey. He's an awesome body guy, probably the best body guy I've ever met in my life. And I got to work with him for a number of years. Great guy. And I'll tell you what, he showed me a few tricks in regards to body work and stuff like that. He's also pretty darn good mechanic too in his own right. But yeah, so there you go. That's installed. And I'm good with that. If you look at the edge there, yeah, I got a little bit of silicone there. Not worried about it. It's absolutely fine. But that's good. So now I can put everything back together. So, as you see, really, you could do it without special tools. Had I had the special tools, it would have made life so much easier. But you got to do what you got to do with what you got. I'm going to put a link in there for those spoons. And also, if you notice, I'm starting to put... People have been asking me about tools and stuff. So what I did was tools that I use, tools that I know other people use that I find that are very helpful that you can pick up on Amazon and stuff like that. What I did was I put links into, I'm starting to put them into all the videos now, of like a top 10 set of tools, you know, from scanners, you know, that new scanner that I got, to like a Bluetooth scanner, to some other miscellaneous tools like a toolkit, stuff like that. If there's something that would interest you that you would want me to give you a link to, let me know. Like if there's some kind of a tool that would be something more than like what I put there that you would find very useful, just let me know. And you know, if it's not something that I have, I'll research it for you and I'll let you know. And then I can include those in the videos. But like I said, I'll try to put a link in for those little spoons, those seal spoons, because man, they come in handy when you need them. So, all right, guys, hopefully you're getting something out of the videos. If you are, hit that like button. If you could, please subscribe. Subscribe. All right, guys, have a great day. Keep wrenching.